Look what God said.
The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen."
Yeah. That's the next question. The first question is where is your brother? Okay. The second question is what have you done? Okay. These are just direct questions. It's the same question. It's just where is your brother? What have you done? Okay. Spare me the smart aleck comments. Okay. What have you done? Okay. The voice. Oh, I'm doing your reading for you.
That's okay.
You said you were sleepy anyway, so the voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. See, the life is in the blood. Okay, and he says your brother is crying out to me from the ground. Okay, as his blood is pooling up and going through crevices, is crying out to me from the ground. His blood is not supposed to be in the ground.
Wow.
His blood is supposed to be in his body. Okay, and what's going on here? Okay, and notice God asked this question, but he doesn't give him a chance to reply anymore. He gave up his talking privileges. Okay, with that smart aleck comment he made earlier. He goes right to, so now. His blood cries out from the ground, so now. Okay, he's not even waiting for answers anymore. Okay, he's going right to the penalty. Okay, you are convicted. Okay, I saw what you did. Okay, you're so narcissistic. You act like I wasn't watching you. Like he does. Like he's watching us every day. Okay, he's looking over everything. He sees our thoughts. He hears our words. He sees our actions. 24/7. Okay, we are under surveillance. Okay, and it's all getting caught on film. And so you have been tried, you have been convicted. Now here's the penalty. So now you are cursed from the earth, which the Lord has opened his mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hands. Okay, the ground was already cursed. He made his living from the ground. Okay, now he's saying, now the ground is going to be closed up from you. Okay, because you spilled your brother's blood on it. Okay, he says, so now you are cursed from the earth in which you have previously made your living. Okay, it says, when you till the ground, it will no longer yield its strength to you. Okay, so you will have to plant twice as much to get half of what you used to get. Okay, with the previous cursed ground. See, because plenty can still come from the ground. Okay, not like it used to, but it was still powerful to yield. But now it won't even yield to you as much as it did. It says, a fugitive and a vagabond you shall be on the earth. Okay, you'll be wandering around, and so this is. He says you will not be stable as you once were. You will be nomadic. Okay, you will need to be a hunter and a gatherer, more than a farmer. And by the way, it didn't take thousands and millions of years for man to develop agriculture. Okay, right off the bat. Okay, man was smart enough to figure out how things grew and how to cultivate animals. Okay, and agriculture started from the beginning. We're going to see later on when we get into some of these genealogies that metallurgy, art, music, those things happened very early in man's history. It didn't take man, millions and thousands and millions of years to cultivate these things. These things happened from the beginning of man's existence. Okay, and you can't find, archaeologically, you can't find where men weren't doing these things. You can't find proof. You can say that, hey, he was using these tools, but you can't say that these are all the tools he had. Okay, you just haven't found them. You haven't found everything, and so if you were using scripture, okay, on top of your archaeology, you would probably get better, more accurate results. That man was doing advanced cultural things early in his existence, and that's a nugget. That's a nugget. Okay.
Genesis 4, verse 13.
13.
Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear."
Boy, this dude was a narcissist to the max. Narcissist to the max. Now, after he just killed his brother, okay, he didn't get the death penalty at this time, because the death penalty doesn't come till later. Okay, the death penalty had a birthday. Okay, when it came into being. Okay, but now he gets a punishment, but this punishment is greater than I can bear. Okay, surely, go ahead. Verse 14.
Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." Then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him.
Okay. Yeah, so Cain was worried about future generations knowing his story. He would be defenseless. There's a possibility. I think he was really inflating this. And God, even in his punishment, still had grace and mercy upon him and made provision for him. Okay.
It's interesting to me that the first thing that he complained about, he says, "Punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence." That was valuable to him.
Yeah, the presence of the Lord was strong in his life, and that's why he was upset when his offering was not accepted. And but it was all about him. That's for sure. And he was uncut narcissism we're seeing there. But God still took care of him and put a mark on him, so nobody would be confused and everybody would have fear of him, or fear of hurting him anyway. 16.
So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. That's interesting. I kind of thought that Adam and Eve was out of the Lord's presence when they left the garden, but
they were out of the garden.
Okay.
But they weren't away from the presence of the Lord. Wow. The Lord was still active. He was still involved. There was a system of worship established. God would still be very much part of the life of man. And so and by the way, even here, there could be redemption for Cain. Okay, when Cain bore his first son, he got married, found a wife. She conceived, and she bore Enoch. Okay, and Enoch's name, okay, showed that maybe Cain came to his senses, okay, and maybe he turned to the Lord over time, and maybe we'll see Cain in heaven. Although we think of Cain as a condemned a character, a person that we would that would be eternally down, but maybe not so. But we sure see the grace of God, even in the midst of the punishment, even in the midst of his sin. He conceived and bore Enoch.
Okay, so what does Enoch mean?
Enoch means dedicated to the Lord.
Okay.
Okay. Dedicated to the Lord, and or trained, dedicated to the Lord. It was maybe a sign that he finally got his act together and turned it around and began to live for the Lord, and named his son that name as they dwelt, he and his wife, in the land of Nod. Sometimes I go to the land of Nod around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but I try to get out of there as soon as I can. That's why I drink my Mountain Dew, so I can stay out of the land of Nod in the afternoon. Anyway, and then Enoch. Okay, go ahead, read.
So let me read Genesis 4:17. Let me read 4:16. So Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Cain made love to his wife, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Enoch. Cain was then building a city, and he named it after his son Enoch.
Okay, so he called the name of the city after his name, so that the city became Enoch. So he was a prosperous man. He built a city. Okay, that means that he was still a powerful man and a prosperous man. Okay, so he was not the vagabond that he thought he would be, and God's grace was still on his life, and he took advantage of all of God's blessings, and he built a city and named it after his son.
The elephant in the room.
What's that?
Is who was his wife?
Yeah. Well, apparently, I mean, it doesn't give her name, obviously, but were you suggesting? Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah. I mean, people, Adam and Eve were having children and these people's lifespans were crazy. I mean, they were crazy long. Okay, so this could have happened, when he married his wife. This could have been 300-400 years later.
Okay.
This could have been many generations. Okay, after Adam and Eve had other children, and they had children, and they had children, and so on and so on and so on. So yeah, these people were living to see sometimes as many as 30 generations. Yeah. And more.
And what years? Like 900 years?
Yeah. They were living 900, close to 1,000 years. And so that's how you can build a city and do things of that nature. It was really an amazing time. If I could go back to any time in human history, it would be here, because this would be the most interesting of all times, because things were so different. The earth was different. You still no rain, still mist from the ground. Okay, firmament in the sky. Okay, the vegetation must have been off to talk about trees and the size of things, and the animals. There were dinosaurs. at the time. You know, I mean, it was. I mean, this was off the chain as far as history is concerned. And so, yeah, I wouldn't want to be seen if I was to travel in this time, you know, because it was also a very tough time. People were tough, they were hard, they were violent, and they were smart. They were strong. As big as I am, I would probably be a weakling, and very vulnerable to predation. If any of us would go back during that time, probably any woman would be able to light me up pretty good and take me out and at this time. And so it's very interesting to contemplate. But go ahead. Let's move along. Verse 18.
To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad was the father of Mahushael. And Mahushael was the father of Methushael. And Methushael was the father of Lamech. Lamech married 2 women, one named Ada and the other named Zillah.
Okay, now we're getting into your favorite territory is the genealogy. That's a sleep fest. That's a snooze fest. I know, but I do have one little nugget I want to drop. If you will just bear with me, and then we'll skip into Cain. I mean, not Cain, into Seth, the life of Seth. Okay, but keep on going.
Okay.
Verse 20.
Ada gave birth to Jabal. He was the father of those who lived in the tents and raised livestock.
Okay, so, and the interesting point here is that it's commonly thought that that people began as hunter-gatherers, okay, and as nomadic hunter-gatherers, okay, and then became agricultural much later in their development. But what the Bible is implying is that man began as agricultural, okay, and then later down the line split off, and some became nomadic, okay, nomadic herdsmen. Okay, and so what we see that at any point in man's history, you have a variety of different ways that people were finding, you know, to live on this deparadised earth. Okay, so we have from the beginning, you know, people occupying themselves with agriculture, with raising animals and husbandry, and then into nomadic type of thing. Not everybody did the nomad thing, but this particular gentleman, Jubal, okay, he became the father of the nomadic herdsmen, okay. And so, so go on to verse 21.
His brother's name was Jubal.
Okay, right. So you had Jabal and Jubal.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Jabal and
I
Jubal.
see that.
Okay. Yeah, and go ahead.
Okay. He was the father of all who played string instruments and pipes.
Okay. So he was the father of music. Okay. And even today, when you have a great festival, you call it a jubilee. Okay, after Jubal. Okay, that's where the word jubilee comes from. The father of music, of human music, and advanced instruments were being crafted at that time. 22.
Zillah also had a son, Tubal Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron.
Okay, he's the father of the craftsmen. Okay, and of the metal workers. He was the first metallurgist and the great craftsman. And we see bronze and iron works very early in human history. Okay, so and obviously fire was around way before that, because you have to have be able to produce fire at very hot temperatures and in very controlled environments in order to work metal. Okay, mining was in practice at this time in order to get people have discovered, hey, those rocks, okay, they can be melted and they have certain qualities and characteristics. It didn't take hundreds of thousands of years of man's development for him to figure those things out. Just had people who were living for 1,000 years, okay, who was figuring that stuff out with their long lifespan. Because I mean, what do you do with 1,000 years? Okay, you can learn a lot of stuff in 1,000 years.
Wow. Tubal Cain's sister was Naamah. Lamech said to his wives, Ada and Zillah, listen to me, wives of Lamech, hear my words. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times.
So yeah, that's and we I don't really know the significance. I never kind of understood the significance of that. Apparently he got into a fight and now he is uttering a prophecy, a poetic prophecy that, hey, Cain was protected. Now I am uttering this prophecy, and there was something in those times, especially when fathers spoke. God honored what they spoke. Okay, so blessings, curses, things of those natures. Fathers were able to say those things, and God would honor those things.
Is there possibly a point that I don't know how to say it, but apples don't fall far that apples don't fall far from the tree.
It's easy for you to say.
And so Cain killed a man, and it looks like a grandson.
He killed a man, and maybe not for the best of reasons. We don't know if it was because of an insult or because of an attack. Okay, and that could be wounding me. We don't know what that means. And so he kind of instead of God saying what his plight would be or what his penalty would be, he determined a protection upon himself. Okay, and we don't know how it played off, if it stuck. We don't know any of that. But it's here, and it is very, very interesting. This whole period is very interesting. Well, family, I trust you are blessed. That was a lot of fun. God bless you all. Remember to take that finger and smash the subscribe button, notification bell, and if you liked it, smash like. You didn't have to love it. Just if you liked it, just hit that like button so that we can spread this message all around the world. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.